So I'd like to talk briefly about how we've been using our sign-up forms for a little bit more than petitions and instead creating some simple tools that engage and empower consumers. Now you might think, why are we using tools? Why tools specifically? Why would we go with that with petition? Well, we have a lot of content on our site. You probably have a lot of expertise and really useful information that's quite static on websites. And we had certainly piles of that. We had lots of doc files. And we decided we would convert them into something interactive. So rather than filling in your own template letter, we would fill it in for you. So that was the first thing we took. And we actually decided we would go down two routes. The first one would be letter tools, so simply something that would help you generate a complaint letter or demand a refund. And more recently, we've gone into triage and reporting tools, which are basically designed to help guide people through writing into an inquiry or to another public sort of avenue. So both, as I say, add value to a standard sign-up form. You're basically taking something that basically already exists in your CRM and you're just giving it a slightly different spin and making it have a different purpose to the user. So the letter writing tools were the first we looked at. We looked at three early areas: flight delay compensation, flight cancellations, and faulty goods. We've actually gone up to about 8 now, and we're actually expanding those in a huge way. We've worked with Forward Action, and we've got better software that allows us to create much, much better forms. And basically, these just take you through a small process where you fill in a form, you say what the details of your complaint were, what your personal details are. It shows you a preview on completion where all of your details have been put in with all the legal language that we are giving you as advice in a ready-to-go letter that you can send off, and then we also email it to you. Now, as part of this, we have an opt-in step, so you can actually become part of our list and a supporter, which is very helpful. There's a little bit of a technical recipe here. If you're not terribly technical, feel free to ignore this bit. But just to show that it is something that's within your system already, all you need is a sign-up form. You just need to basically put that inside. Another thing that will give you flexibility to add code to your sign-up form. And then once it submits, we hide the form. And then with a little bit of jQuery, we pop the form back into view with all of the fields completed. Then the rest is just email personalization. I'm sure most of you will be familiar with that, how you send your receipt emails every time someone signs up to one of your petitions. And then after that, we just do a bit of analysis. It's actually very helpful because there's a loop involved where we can, say, find problem airlines and then go to them and say, why aren't you responding to complaints? So the reason why they work very well, for your supporters, they are basically saving money, they're saving time, you're giving them value at pretty much no cost to you because it's already a product you're paying for. I mean, yes, your CRM might be quite an expensive product in the first place, but what you're adding here is not really costing you anything. And the great thing is they're self-service, so they will just sit on your website, people can use them when they need them, you're providing a service at the point where it's required, and as such you're actually really kind of adding a different value to just a sort of one-off campaign. So the next thing we looked at were triage tools. So you probably encountered a public consultation at some time. Often it's hidden away on a gov.uk page. It just says, write to this address, this is kind of what we're interested in, we'd like you to meet all of these conditions, and it's a huge, huge thing. It's not very engaging for the public, and it can be actually very unproductive for the regulator themselves. Sometimes that's deliberate as well. We have looked at different ways of doing this in the past. We used to survey people, and we would bombard an existing investigation with 6,000 responses when they'd only had 500 to start with. But actually, for the end user, it's much better if we can explain what the purpose is, make sure that they're only answering the questions they need to ask in what can be a really complicated and alienating process, and then send off a really nicely structured form at the end to the regulator. So you can get an idea of a couple of ones we've done here combined. So the first one was for bank transfer scams. We'll talk about that in a second. Basically asking if people have been affected. If they're not, then we're giving them a route so they can join our community and talk about the problem there. And the second one on the right-hand side here is actually from a tool that was launched on last Tuesday, which is helping contribute to an inquiry on care homes that the CMA is conducting. But basically they give you a treed journey, as you can see here, which is basically just composed again of sign-up forms and little pages that exist within the systems you already have. And this is actually very helpful, both for the user and internally. I mean, I've made a little point at the bottom here, but I really cannot emphasize how helpful it is to have the structure like this, to be able to go to the different people in different teams and say, look, I need you to do this bit, and I need it now because this bit afterwards is going to need to be built, and I can't do it until you've done that. So actually putting the common strategy into the structure of how I'm building this has been really helpful. So quick example, bank transfer scams. So this is where you get tricked into sending money from your online banking account to a scammer. You have basically no protection at the moment. We want to highlight this. So we launched a super complaint, and in support of this, we wanted to get examples from people who've been affected. So the regulator was unsure of the scale of this. That's unsurprising. People are quite nervous about talking about fraud, so we thought we would create something that would help them speak out. So we created an email journey that led to this tool, which had several steps to it. So asking if they're affected, giving them the chance to give evidence in the right way. If they weren't affected, giving them the chance to comment on the issue so that we at least had a bank of opinion that we could use. And the option to discuss further on our community. We also built in social sharing of the tool to get more reports and email journeys to follow up with the people who had completed it. So the results were very good. We had 32,000 people share their evidence, and the regulator was pretty much overwhelmed. However, it hasn't been a total success, but we know that they're going to be looking into it further. So a little bit of advice on building these things. If you do go for it, do think about embedding. You might want to share this with a third party. As such, think about how it's going to get on their site. Try and deal with admin that's going to be involved, like data transfers. Try and make that automatic, otherwise you'll be doing a transfer every day or exporting stuff all the time, and that's a pain. And then try and set a time frame on your tool. Think about how you're going to manage correspondence, because people will write back into you if they're trying to deal with a problem and it hasn't been solved. And also try and think about how you'll deal with user feedback. So overall tool results so far, I mean, you'll see this when you download the presentation, 354,000 plus uses so far. Huge numbers of people following through to sign petitions when they're put as a second stage in the journey. Huge opt-in rate, 26%, and lots of people using them over and over again, which is great because it means there's a second chance for them to opt in. And then we've acquired over 41,000 people using these. Almost 15,000 of those have been organic just by them sitting on pages. So next steps are going to be making this widgetized so it sits better in other people's pages, better paginated, which Forward Action's helping us with, so we can make the forms better, and then automating a lot of the feedback and analysis of the data that's there. So I'm just going to say, before I get banged completely out of existence here, the final thoughts. These do exist in your system, and it's pretty much just up to your creativity to find them, so I hope you'll take a look.